The CEO yelled at the little cleaner girl, but her one sentence changed everything. It was nearly midnight. The glass building stood tall in the heart of Manhattan, a mirror to the stars above. Inside, the hallways echoed with silence. James Armitage, billionaire CEO, known as the Ice King among his employees, was still in his office. The entire floor was empty except for him. He liked it that way. No noise, no questions, no one needing anything. Tonight, however, something was different. As he gathered his leather briefcase and shut off the overhead lights, he heard it. A sound. A soft drag, a quiet clatter, somewhere near the lobby. He froze. This building had 24-hour security. No one was supposed to be on this floor but him. His first thought, an intruder. Second thought, someone's about to get fired. He stepped out. The marble hallway reflected his sharp silhouette. Suit still crisp, tie still tight. As he rounded the corner, there she was. A little girl, no more than 7, maybe 8 years old, wearing an oversized janitor's shirt that nearly dragged on the floor. Her small hands barely gripped the mop. She didn't see him. She was humming, mopping. James blinked, thinking he was hallucinating. Then she turned, and they locked eyes. She froze. He stared. For 3 long seconds no one moved. And then, "What the hell is this?" James barked. She dropped the mop. Her eyes widened. She stammered, I'm sorry, sir. I was just..." "You're a child," he growled. "You shouldn't be here. Who brought you here? Where's your mother?" "Your supervisor, security." The girl took a step back, visibly shaking. But her eyes, big, round, unblinking, held something more than fear, something old, wounded. "Do you live here?" James snapped. "Do you think this is a playground? Do you think this is funny?" She opened her mouth, closed it, then opened it again. Her voice came barely above a whisper. "Please don't fire my mama." James was silent. He stepped closer, still fuming. "You're not even supposed to be in this building. This is a high-security corporate floor." "You're a kid." She swallowed hard, eyes glistening. Then, slowly, she looked up at him and said one sentence. Just one. A sentence so soft, so unexpected, so piercing. James's mouth stopped moving. His chest actually tightened. She said, quote, "I come here because this is the only place where no one's crying." And silence. James stood there, stunned. The words hit him like a brick to the stomach. Before he could speak, she picked up the mop, turned around, and quietly pushed it into the janitor closet. She didn't look back. He watched her disappear into the dark. That night, James didn't sleep. He lay in his penthouse, eyes open, replaying her voice over and over. "Chore. This is the only place where no one's crying." What the hell did she mean? The next morning, James didn't go to his meetings. He called HR, security, facilities. "I want the cleaning team list for last night. Names, shifts, everything." No one had listed a child. No one had seen a child. There was no footage. Nothing in the elevator logs. It was as if she never existed. But James remembered her eyes. And that sentence. He called security again. "I don't care what it takes. Find me every janitor with a daughter. Check second shifts. Night shifts. Anyone recently sick or absent." He canceled his board meeting. He didn't know why, but he needed to know who she was, and why she was cleaning a $1 billion floor at midnight. Two days later, they brought him a file. Single mother, Maria Elkins, employed with Prime Cleaning Services, third-party contractor, usually worked the B tower, but had requested a one-night swap for emergency coverage. James read further: low income, widowed, 1 daughter, age 7, name Ellie. His chest sank. He stared at her staff photo. Maria looked tired, like she'd seen too much. But her eyes, Ellie had her eyes. That night, he didn't call security. He drove to the address listed in the file. A small apartment block in Queens. He walked the hallway alone. Knocked on the door. A long pause, then a tired voicey, "Yes." James cleared his throat. "It's James Armitage." CEO of. The door opened immediately. Maria stood there, stunned, and behind her, poking out from behind the couch, Ellie. Same oversized janitor shirt. Same eyes. She froze again when she saw him. But this time, James knelt. "I came to say thank you." He looked into Ellie's face, and to ask, "What did you mean, Ellie?" "About crying." Her mother's eyes welled instantly. Ellie stepped forward. "Mama cries a lot. Especially at night. She thinks I don't hear. But I do." She looked down. "So when she sleeps, I clean with her stuff. Because when I clean your building, no one is crying. Not even me." James's throat tightened. Maria rushed forward. "Mr. Armitage, I'm so sorry. She's never supposed to." James raised a hand. "She taught me more in one night than most executives have in 10 years. He stood. Looked around the small, dim apartment. A mattress on the floor, a cracked fridge, no toys. "I'd like to offer you a job, Maria," he said softly. "A full-time position at the head office. Day shift, full benefits, and I want to sponsor Ellie's education." "Private school?" Maria gasped. She couldn't speak. She just stared. Ellie walked forward, tugged on James's sleeve. "Does this mean I can stop cleaning now?" James knelt again, smiled. "You should have never started." Maria Elkins sat on the edge of her couch, staring at the folder James Armitage had left behind. Inside, a contract, a new job title, full medical insurance. Ellie's school sponsorship letter signed. It felt unreal. She'd spent years cleaning floors no one noticed. Invisible to everyone. Until that one night. And all it took was her daughter. Her 7-year-old, quietly carrying the weight of a storm. 2-3 months earlier, the hospital room smelled like bleach and forgotten promises. Maria sat beside the hospital bed, gently dabbing sweat from her husband's forehead. John Elkins, once a proud auto technician, lay lifeless. Cancer, stage 4, insurance denied, savings gone. He looked up at Maria. "Promise me you'll protect Ellie. Don't let her grow up bitter like me." Maria forced a smile, blinking tears back. "She'll be better than both of us." John nodded, his fingers trembling as he reached for hers. "Then don't break. No matter what comes." Those were his last words. Maria buried her husband with barely enough money to pay for the casket. She sold everything, furniture, jewelry, even her old sewing machine. But nothing prepared her for what came next. Late nights, 2 cleaning jobs, a daughter too young to understand grief, yet too wise to ignore it. Back in the present, Ellie never talked much. But she watched everything. She knew when Maria skipped dinner so Ellie could eat. She knew when Mama cried in the bathroom with the door closed, and she especially knew when Mama came home too tired to speak. So Ellie started helping. Quietly. She'd wake up in the middle of the night, slip on her mama's work shirt, and mimic what she'd seen. Mopping, dusting, wiping windows with tissue. Not because anyone told her to, but because it made her feel strong. Like she could fix something. Like maybe, just maybe, she could carry some of the sadness. The night James Armitage found her wasn't her first time cleaning. It was her 5th. The first few nights, she only cleaned their apartment. Then, one evening, when Maria forgot her ID badge and had to run back to the cleaning van, Ellie wandered through the halls, past the elevators, into the glowing corridors of Armitage Holdings. She loved it there. So shiny, so still, so quiet. No one cried there, not like home. But Maria never knew. She had no idea her daughter was sneaking into corporate towers, pretending to be part of the staff. She only found out after that night, when James had come to their door. And then it all unraveled. The guilt, the fear, the tears Maria tried so hard to hide came flooding out. "I've failed her, I've failed everything." But James, he didn't yell. Didn't shame her. He sat quietly, listening. And when she finished sobbing, he said something no one had ever said to her before. "You didn't fail, you survived. In 1 week later, Ellie sat in the back seat of a black town car, looking out at the gates of Belrose Academy. The school was enormous. Brick walls, stained glass windows, children laughing in matching uniforms. Maria sat beside her, holding her hand tightly. James stood near the gate, speaking with the headmaster. "Full scholarship," he said. "But more than that, protect her." The headmaster nodded. She looked back once, at her mom, then at James, then walked inside. Not as a janitor, not as a cleaner, but as a student, a beginning. Too, but not everything was simple. Maria tried to adjust to her new life. Day shifts, proper lunch breaks, weekends off. But some scars don't heal with money. She still flinched when her phone rang at night. Still checked the fridge 3 times before buying groceries. Still turned off lights out of habit, even when she didn't need to. And Ellie. She didn't speak about her dad. Not to her teachers. Not to James. Not even to Maria. But every night, before sleeping, she opened the janitor's closet James had set up for her in the new apartment. Inside, the same old mop. Not to use, just to look at. Like a memory she didn't want to forget. Meanwhile, at Armitage Holdings, James had changed. His staff noticed. He smiled more. Stopped yelling. Even asked how people were doing. No one knew what caused the change. Only that something inside him had softened. One evening, he walked into his office and found a small envelope on his desk. No name. Just one sentence written on a piece of paper. "Sure, this place still doesn't cry." He smiled, and for the first time in a decade, James Armitage cried. Quietly, privately, not out of pain, but out of something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. 2. To be continued in Chapter 3. The Search for Truth. James Armitage was not used to emotion. He had built his empire on logic, control, and strict order. But something about Ellie, and her quiet strength, had unlocked a door in him he didn't know existed. He couldn't explain it. He didn't want to, but he couldn't ignore it either. That sentence, "Sure, this place still doesn't cry," haunted him in the best way. One morning, weeks later, James sat in his office, looking out at the skyline. He'd canceled all meetings that day because he had a question. Not about profits, not about market shares. A personal question, and it wouldn't leave him alone. Why did that little girl feel familiar? Her eyes, her voice, her silence. He couldn't shake it. He called security. Again. "I want full access to Ellie Elkin's background. School records, hospital visits, birth certificate, everything legal, of course." His head of security raised an eyebrow. "Sir, she's just a child." James nodded. "I know. That's why I need to understand." 3 days later, the file arrived. Basic at first. School enrollment, address, age, vaccinations. Then something caught his eye. Father's name, John Elkins, born Ohio. Died 3 months ago. Occupation, auto technician. James froze. He picked up his phone. Called his assistant. "Get me John Elkins, employment records from 5 years ago. I want to know if he ever worked for Armitage Holdings or any subsidiary companies." 10 minutes later, she called back. Her voice was tight. "Sir, you're not going to believe this. And 5 years ago, John Elkins had worked at an Armitage Holdings auto partnered branch in Ohio. He was a junior foreman. Hardworking. Low incident reports. Then a corporate downsizing. James had signed the order himself. Elkins was laid off. Severance none. Medical coverage cut. Appeals denied. He remembered now. It was just one of 300 names on a spreadsheet. James had barely looked at them. A number. A line item. But that number, that decision had taken Ellie's father away from her. And now she was here, mopping his floors, looking him in the eye, not with hatred, with grace. James leaned back in his chair, crushed by the weight of what he'd never known. 5 years ago, sitting in the same leather chair, James had dismissed the entire Midwest division with a single pen stroke. His words at the time, "If they matter, they'll survive." Back to present, he picked up Ellie's file again. Something else stood out. Place of birth Mary Grace Medical Center. James blinked. He knew that place. He had been born there too. And then his eyes caught another line. Delivering Dr. Amelia Hart. That name. It was the same doctor who had delivered his younger brother. Long ago, before tragedy ripped his family apart. The puzzle was coming together. Could it be? Could their families have crossed paths long before? Was there something deeper tying Ellie to him? That evening, James found himself in front of the old hospital in Ohio. It was half abandoned now. Broken windows, rusted signs, but one small archive room remained. He met with the last active administrator, an old man named Raymond. Raymond looked at the name on James's note. Elkins. Yeah, I remember that name. He rummaged through a cabinet and pulled out an old intake form, birth record, photos, a delivery note from Dr. Amelia Hart. Then he turned to James. You know, this girl, Ellie, she wasn't supposed to survive. James frowned. What do you mean? Raymond sighed. Cord around the neck, premature labor, no insurance. The family couldn't afford a proper emergency unit. It was Dr. Hart who stayed 6 hours overtime, just to save her. James felt something twist inside his chest. Why would she do that? Raymond smiled. Because of a promise. James leaned in. To who? Raymond looked him dead in the eye. To your mother. Silence. James stood frozen. My mother. Raymond nodded. Your mom saved Dr. Hart's career once, back when the hospital tried to fire her over a patient's death. She was your father's legal advisor, right? James nodded slowly. Raymond continued. Well, Dr. Hart made a promise to your mother. That one day, if a child came in and had no one, no help, no chance, she'd save that child, no matter what. And that child was Ellie. James stepped out into the night air, breathless. So many lives crossing, invisible threads tying people together, decisions made in boardrooms that echoed through lives. Now he understood. Ellie wasn't just some child cleaning floors. She was living proof of something bigger. A promise, a chain of grace, a link to his own legacy. Back at the penthouse, James opened a drawer in his study and pulled out an old photo. His mother, Dr. Hart, smiling at some charity gala. Back when James still believed life had magic, he sat down, staring. The CEO who had once said, if they matter, they'll survive, now understood the truth. The ones who matter are the ones who survive with nothing. Next morning, James drove to the new apartment he had arranged for Maria and Ellie. He didn't call ahead. Maria opened the door, surprised. He looked different, less sharp, less cold, more human. He handed her a folder. What's this? She asked. Your story, the full one, and mine too. He looked at Ellie, who was coloring on the couch, then turned back to Maria. I have one more offer. Not just for a job or a school. Maria blinked. For what? James took a deep breath. To start something new, a foundation. In Ellie's name, for single mothers, abandoned families, kids who clean when they should be sleeping. Maria couldn't speak. Ellie looked up. Her voice was soft. Will it help people not cry anymore? James smiled. Yes, that's the goal. 6 months later, the building was new, all glass and light. But what stood inside was something no one had seen before. A clean white sign at the entrance read Chore. The Ellie Grace Foundation. Because some children carry the weight of the world. We see them now. The ribbon was ready to be cut. Press, donors, volunteers, employees. And at the front, Maria Elkins, now Director of Family Outreach. Ellie, dressed in a navy blue dress, holding the oversized scissors. And beside her, James Armitage. No suit today, just a light gray shirt, sleeves rolled up, smiling. Human changed. A voice echoed through the microphone. 6 months ago, James began. I was a man who thought success was measured in zeros and strength meant silence. He paused. I was wrong. A murmur moved through the crowd. I met a little girl who walked into my building in the middle of the night, pushing a mop. He looked down at Ellie, who grinned up at him. She didn't demand anything, she just whispered one sentence. "Chore. This place is the only place where no one's crying." The audience fell silent, and in that moment, James continued, I realized I hadn't heard anything in years. Not truly. He looked out at the crowd, CEOs, janitors, single mothers, orphans, all gathered under one roof. I built this foundation not because I'm a good man, but because I finally listened to one, and through two. After the ceremony, as people mingled and the press took photos, James sat on a bench near the playground the foundation had built. Ellie came and sat beside him. She swung her legs. "Do you still work in the big building?" she asked. James chuckled. "Sometimes, but I like it better here." "Why?" He looked at her. "Because here, I can see what matters." She smiled, pulling out a folded paper from her pocket. "I wrote something. Want to hear it?" James nodded. She opened the paper and read. Chore. The strongest people are not the loud ones. They are the quiet ones who keep going. They sweep the floors, hold the doors, and carry hearts too heavy for their age. James didn't move. His eyes began to fill. Ellie continued. "Tor, if you ever see someone cleaning, don't just walk past them. They're probably cleaning more than just the floor." James wiped a tear. "That's beautiful," he whispered. "Did you write that?" She nodded. "It's for Mahmoud, and for you." Later that night, Maria closed the door of their now comfortable home. Ellie was asleep in her room. James stood at the doorstep, ready to leave. But before he could turn, Maria spoke. "I know the guilt eats at you." James looked back, surprised. She continued, "You think this foundation makes up for the layoff? For what happened to John?" He looked down. Maria stepped forward. "But James, if that layoff hadn't happened, I wouldn't have fought so hard. Ellie wouldn't have become who she is. And you," she stopped, "you'd still be blind to the world you helped break." James met her eyes. "Do you forgive me?" And she smiled sadly. "You were just doing what you thought was right. But now you're doing what's truly right." A long pause. Then she added softly, "Tua, redemption doesn't start with being perfect, it starts with being present." A month later, a new beginning, the Ellie Grace Foundation expanded. 10 cities, thousands of children, job training for mothers, night shelters, counseling, school scholarships. Every building bore the same inscription. Chore. This is a place where no one cries alone. Final scene. It was late evening. James stood alone in the original Armitage Holdings tower. Everyone else had left. He walked the marble hallway, stopped near the janitor closet where Ellie once pushed the mop inside. He opened it. Still empty, still quiet, but now, on the wall, framed neatly, hung her handwritten poem. Beneath it, a gold plaque, dedicated to Ellie Elkins. "She cleaned more than our floors. She cleaned our hearts." James Armitage. To as James turned off the light, he whispered, "Thank you for saving me." And for the first time in his life, the silence didn't feel cold. It felt full, to pew. And just like that, one little girl changed a billionaire's heart with just one sentence. A reminder that sometimes those we overlook are carrying the heaviest burdens. And their silence is full of stories. What did this story mean to you? Comment and tell us your favorite moment. Maybe someone out there needs to hear it too. Share this with someone who's forgotten how powerful kindness can be. And if this story touched your heart, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications, because we're just getting started.